I completely forgot to. Damn it. Testing. 1, 2, 3. As I. Oh no! Come on. Sorry about this. I accidentally started in the wrong. YouTube-wise, didn't start in the live control room, so. Which would, help me a lot. Okay, come on. I'm not going to assume everything's working, but of course I just need to hear. Okay, come on. There we go. Alright, so, hello, this is Chiak. We are back again with another set of Omen Exitio Plague, where I lost all my items twice. All my friends are dead. And yeah, so hey, let's go and continue this terrible fate at the sunset of Suez, if that's how you pronounce it. Suez is an incredible sight, the canal glimmering in the sunlight as it were beset with precious stones, the shores crowded with boats of every possible kind, flying all sorts of flags. Despite being a British protectorate, the city seems to glory in its cosmopolitan nature, deserving its fame as the crossroads of the Western world. You find a place where you can observe the crowd without being seen. As soon as the thief passes you by, you follow him, trying not to take your eyes off him and waiting for the right time to strike. Should you lose him, you don't think you could find him again amidst the throng of sweat and bustling humanity. Excuse me, I do need to check. How many points am I away from another 30? Okay. You're smack in the middle of the Suez Bazaar. Your senses are struck by the smells and colors of the bazaar, floating around all of the stands, covered in goods you've never before seen. You feel sucked into an unfamiliar world. On the verge of suffocating you in this dense crowd of people, you have a hard time finding your bearings and soon lose track of the way you came. The heavy crowd has made you lose track of the man, and now you're trying to find him again. Suez's streets are all too crowded with British uniforms, and you struggle to check every single passerby. Then you notice some unusual behavior from one of the soldiers. He's looking about, but never stopping to examine the busy, extravagant stands. You move closer to try and observe him better, and finally you recognize the young man. You get closer to him, your eyes fixed on the target. You can't lose him now. You lay low, blending into a small group of people, replicating their movements so that you're hidden from the sight of the soldier. Suddenly the man turns right, in a quieter alley, farther away from the bazaar, and you're forced to leave cover and follow him there. You turn the corner, receive a kick straight in the face, making you fall to the ground with your nose painfully throbbing. Been injured again. You get up quickly despite having been hit hard. The thief is ready to fight. It seems he isn't going to run away this time. You dodge, hit, and as you manage to throw your adversary against the alley wall, you notice something sticking out of his pocket. It's Eric's diary. You grasp the notebook and hold it close, but the thief makes use of your temporary distraction and runs. You try to grab him with your free hand, pulling at his coat, but his jacket rips and you lose your balance. You fall on your knees and find the man's wrist a couple of inches away from your eyes. You've managed to glimpse of a tattoo sticking out of his sleeve. Then the thief sprints off and disappears down an alley. You remember having seen that tattoo already. It's identical to the one sported by the beggar you crossed paths with when you first arrived in Zanzibar. It wasn't the same man, you're sure of that. You wonder why such different men should have the same symbol tattooed on their wrist. It looks like the mark of some secret organization or cult. You headed back, holding your pocket where you put Eric's diary tightly, lest the thief gets his head to steal it yet again. You're glad you could recover it, but now you can't help throwing paranoid looks at every person you see on the way back. You spend the remainder of the day resting in your cabin, and when you look out to the docks again, the sunset is already painting the famous canal gold. Raising your eyes to the pier, you observe how it is now completely free of the afternoon's hustle and bustle, and almost romantic sight. Captain Smith is waiting for you. He's lighting a match for his pipe, and the sky's soft orange shades glow together before you. Right in time for sunset, Huntington. Another day is over. Smith greets you with an unnatural smile, even though you can't remember a time when you saw him smile at all. Walk with me. The streets of Suez looks completely different now, without sailors and merchants around. You nod and decide to follow him. After all, you're not allowed to disobey the order of a commanding officer, although a terrible uneasiness claws at your heart when you're in the presence of Smith. You'll never forget Scott's screams and his face clenching in pain. To think that, once, all of this was nothing but a small province of the Egyptian rule. The captain's words bring you back into the moment as you watch him, puzzled. Don't look at me like that, Huntington. Do you think my entire life revolves around the army? I have my own interest. History was always fascinating to me even as a child. His demeanor is worrying you more and more, and you're uncertain as to how you should answer him. Humor him. You just look at him keenly, trying to read anything from his expression, but the captain shows no emotion at all, simply breathing in another puff from his pipe, his face illuminated by a small lump of smoldering tobacco. Then he resumes talking in the calm, steady tone, which cuts like a knife. The Egyptians have extremely advanced medical knowledge. They were experimenters and innovators. You can't understand what the captain may be aiming at with this bizarre history lesson, but you choose to let him go on in order to not upset him even more. After all, he's recently lost his son. Maybe this is his way of coping. You're an innovator too, aren't you, Huntington? You don't like where this conversation is going, and a shiver runs down your spine. You freeze, allowing the captain to take a couple of steps further. You're going to open your mouth and stop this nonsense when I have understood you perfectly. Smith's pipe hits the ground, making you flinch. Your brief dismay is enough for the captain to turn on his heels, drawing his gun with the ease of a true professional. You would be fascinated if its barrel weren't pointed straight at your head. You're working for someone. Who is it? Who wanted to take my son's life? Smith is beside himself, incapable of accepting Scott's death, eager to lash out at anyone for the cruel demise of his innocent child. Pity that someone is you. Speechcraft. Smith, I assure you, I did everything in my power to save your son. I cannot even look you in the eyes, such is the shame for having been unable to do anything for him. The captain seems to hesitate, but his weapon is still fixed on you. He stares at you with his eyes wide open and teeth clenched in anger and pain. This disease. We need to do something to stop it before it's too late. But if you shoot me now, there will be more deaths, more people will suffer as you do, as Scott did. You see the hand gripping the gun begin to tremble. He stares at you for a few more seconds. Then his eyes mist over, and pained tears start running from under his glasses. Then he falls on his knees, dropping his weapon to the ground and clutching his head with his hands. You hastily step forward and kick his weapon into the water. You let Smith cry all his tears before helping him up. You don't say a word. He walks as if he were dragging himself along some long, arduous path. His pipe lies spilled on the dock's paving stones, ashes blown towards the sea, as you both return to the ship, both greatly tormented by personal demons. Okay, I was about to say, this is probably going to be a very interesting. Like, the chapters are actually quite short. We already have 30? What? Okay. I mean, So this is what I've been thinking. Like I think I said this before. I think in order to like maybe keep my items and stuff like that, because I was basing my decisions on the points I had. But oh, interesting, I failed. Smith tried to kill you in time of need. Oh, wait. Discover secrets hidden within? Okay, interesting. So this is tell me, because I couldn't save his son, Smith tried to kill me. Alright. So I'm wondering if I fought, even though my points were only 1, if I would have not lost my items and stuff like that. I don't know if I would have been able to save his comrades, but... So I feel like a lot of those decisions were based on that. Okay, so... I mean, again... Because if I get into another fight, my problem is if I get into another fight, agility and fighting comes into play. That, or just at least add something to fighting. Because clearly at this point I can't quite have it at 1. Or I can go for more medicine, or I can go for agility. I mean, my aim was observation, medicine, speechcraft, but then there are points where no matter what, I have to fight or I have to do agility. I think mainly because of medicine, it says if you know where to hit to do more harm, you do not need to use brute force. And so I was thinking that there's going to be more options where that would take place, but so far not yet. Okay, when we'll come to it, come to a decision, we'll come to it. Homecoming. The long journey is over, and in front of you lies London. Fumes rise from the chimneys of the houses, filling the skies with the grayish air that tastes like home. The bitter smell of the city streets, large, efficient factories, the scuttle of horses on the cobbles. You're finally back, and it seems like the city wants to welcome you, embracing you like an exile coming back from a long adventure. You take a carriage and you enjoy every single moment of it on the way home. The Victorian houses offer a spectacular, uninterrupted view, an endless celebration of the greatness of this English city. The nostalgia and melancholy you felt during the last 2 weeks finally become joy and happiness in view. What? Nostalgia and melancholy you felt during the last few weeks finally become joy and happiness in viewing all the streets and monuments you have loved your whole life. When the carriages stop in front of your house, you are drawn to watch it as it pulls away. It's been so long since you last saw one. It seems different, maybe bigger. You tried to embrace reality, entering the house and exploring every corner as if it were the first time you'd been there. You can't help but ask yourself what it's going to be like renewing old habits. Yet, whilst climbing the stairs, painful memories resurface with each step you take. It feels like you're suddenly in one of those nightmares that haunted you in Africa. You stop at the room's edge. Your body is paralyzed and with panic and hesitation. You'll never forget that in the very room your beloved Helen took her last breath. Let's enter the room. You enter the room after working up the courage. You sit on the bed. You didn't find the cure for the disease, no matter how much time you spent reading in your laboratory, or how much help you received from esteemed colleagues and friends. It was the biggest failure of your career and the most painful experience of your life. You can't fail again. This strange African disease has already killed several people, and you couldn't do anything to save them, but you have no intention of giving up. No matter the cost, this time you will defeat the disease. You owe it to Helen. The doorbell rings. You leave these thoughts for a moment and go downstairs to open the door. You wonder how anyone might have known of your return so soon. Whilst going downstairs, you see a figure through the frosted glass of the front door. You approach the door, and despite the blurriness, you recognize the person waiting there. It's Meyer. You hesitate, but you decide to open the door. With a polite greeting, the German asks to enter your house, and you can hardly refuse him. The man looks around with curiosity, examining your furniture, and then asks to sit down in the living room. You agree to his request, since this is apparently an ordinary courtesy call, although you notice the suitcase Meyer has with him. Meyer sits down as he continues to examine your furniture, as if he were actually interested in you as a person. The man leaves his suitcase near the armchair and crosses his arms in front of him, with unnerving calm before deciding to speak. Mr. Huntington, it's a long pleasure to see you after so long. Last time I saw you, you were fighting viciously, and I have to admit, I doubted you would have made it out alive from that village. You are shocked and watch him with your eyes wide open with a stunned face. Was Meyer there during the fight at Mkwawa's village? He notices your expression and barely smiles. Glad to be wrong. Let's go with intrigued. We want you to study the disease for us. We have a common goal. We would like to find a cure, too, and we are sure you are the man with the necessary skills and motivation to find it. Your thoughts turn to Helen and to her agony. If you had helped her, if someone like Meyer had reached you 1 year ago, offering support, you might have done something to save her. The man picks up the suitcase beside him and places it in front of you, opening it with some theatrics. You remain speechless, seeing the contents. Money. More money than you've ever seen before. This is to let you carry on your research in a satisfying way. I hope it's enough to convince you of our good intentions. Once again, your thoughts wander among several questions. Wasn't this what you wanted? With all that money, you could start 1, 2, maybe even 5 simultaneous research projects to study the disease and defeat it as soon as possible. How many lives could you save? On the other hand, you don't know Meyer. You know nothing about the organization he belongs to. The man seems elusive and very careful in regard to disclosing information. You don't know whether he is trying to cheat you or what he wants in return for such a generous economic help. Okay. Oh, hi, Drake Wolf. Sorry, I was too busy reading to even look at the chat. No tentacle monsters, but we do have an offer from a questionable individual who we know has a tattoo. Now, my instincts, I want to say no right away. Yeah. Are you the one who took my stuff? Okay. I'm going to refuse? I don't know. The point of this is that you play this multiple of times to see the different results and choices that you make. What the, I'm assuming random RPG, not random, the random game, all that stuff, what it decides to, to give to you. Okay, you know what? Yeah, I don't know. I don't trust this guy. I can't trust him. He has a tattoo. The thief stole the book from us. That's the question. What side are they on? I'm assuming they stole the book in order to find out more about this disease, right? But on the other hand, like with the money, he can actually, Though, also, but if he's German, he was giving us money, that's not going to be a good look. For considering there is a war happening. That is not going to be a good look. Tattoos equal monsters equals fun stuff. There's a political climate I have to also consider. Oh, yeah, these guys are on a different page, and they're already dead, so who matters? Ooh. I don't know, is this going to get us in trouble with, like, the British Army and all that stuff? Myers apparently knew that we were at the village. He was watching us at the village. This feels like a big decision, a branching path decision, right? So I don't know. We accept the money, we'll be able to do the research at whatever they want it for. I can refuse and then I just struggle to do things on my own. I don't know. Do I want to struggle or do I want to... But then there's also like the political... If you can play it off with speech, maybe it could be good. True. I do have enough... Well, see, I'm tempted. Like, do I just wait till I get another speechcraft right away and up this up as quickly as possible? Oh, I really don't know what to decide here. I'm actually really conflicted. Because my first instinct is refuse, because I don't trust this guy. On the other hand, I didn't trust the random boatman, and it's like, you're kind of being... The game told me obviously, you're kind of being mean to him for no good reason. I'm like, I'm sorry, okay? What side are these guys on? What's the cons? I mean, obviously with accepting, I think there could be the political issues since the British and the Germans are at odds with each other and doesn't look good. Especially since Smith just pointed a gun at us, asking, who are we working for? In terms of refusing, then we don't have the money and then we're kind of starting the research, or the medical research from a bare bones operation. I mean, a spy? I don't think a spy... I mean, he's definitely... Because this guy has that eye tattoo. So, his organization is for whoever... I mean, I think the organization doesn't care about the political country lines and stuff like that. They have their own goal, right? So I'm just gonna click this because I can't stand the shining. Please stop shining. Do I get my items back if I accept? Because I'm assuming that they're the ones who took my bag for running away. I'm very curious, even if I just decide to fight, even though I did not have the points for it, if I would have been able to keep my items and stuff like that. Because there's nothing more... Where's Meyer's sheet? Sorry, character sheet. Meyer. Nope, wrong person. Notes. People we've met. So Meyer, mysterious German who seems to know many details of your past. Behind his affable ways and a certain wit, his true intentions are unknown and suspicious to you. But yeah, he knows everything about us, so he's been watching us for a long time. Ugh. I really don't know. My instinct says refuse, just because I don't trust him. But yeah, this seems like a big branching path moment, so... On the other hand, you don't know Meyer. You know nothing about the organization he belongs to. The man seems elusive and very careful. Like, I'm afraid that they're gonna, like... I'm gonna take the money, but then they're gonna, like, lock me in some laboratory. I don't know what's gonna happen afterwards. The man seems elusive and very careful in regard to disclosing information. You don't know whether he is trying to cheat you, or what he wants in return for such a generous economic help. I mean, the question, I guess, to ask is, what would the organization specifically want in understanding the disease? I would assume if they're on the side of the bad guys, so to speak, it's to, if they're the bad guys, it's to control the disease and use it for their benefit or whatever. Or maybe just release whatever eldritch being is behind it. And then if they're, I don't know, if they're trying to fight it, if they're against them, then I don't know. It's because obviously if we want to, sorry, let me just, like, if we want to research the disease, we take the money, right? And so maybe that is, okay. I'm going to take the money because we want to research the disease. I guess. So, you decide to accept Meyer's offer. There are many peculiarities that surround the German and the people he represents, but his motive seems noble. You hope so. Moreover, with this money, you can start your research right away. You could even find a cure quickly and defeat the African disease. You'll see us soon, Mr. Huntington. We will want to know the developments of our investment. After having said goodbye by raising his hat, Meyer heads to the end of the street. When you can no longer see him, you get back into your house, closing the door behind you. Back in the living room, you glimpsed at the suitcase, swallowing your nerves. You wonder whether it was a good idea to accept his offer. You know what? I'm not doing so well right now, but I don't think you're supposed to anyway. I got the achievement Economic Aid. The encounter with Meyer has left you full of doubts and uncertainty. You know nothing about the interests of the people he works for, except for the fact that they too are looking for a cure for the African disease. You feel dazed and you need some time to think about it, but you also need rest. You go upstairs trying to ignore the knot in your stomach as soon as you enter the bedroom. You reach the bed and let go of your worries, exhausted and hoping to sleep immediately. But your hopes are soon denied by bitter insomnia. You stare at the ceiling and toss and turn beneath the bed sheets while you dwell on the past few weeks. You enlisted and went to Zanzibar, escaping the demons that haunted you, but you have found new ones over the course of the journey. One in particular seems to have invaded both your mind and your nightmares: the disease. A new opponent has unexpectedly entered the game. He awaits your next move on a chessboard whose pieces represent the lives of the innocent. You grab a pawn and feel as if you are ready to take them on and challenge the disease. But who can tell whose king will fall first? Okay, what I got now? I got 40 points. So right away, I can go for another speechcraft. Or I can go for medicine and wait for another... Or we could just wait. Wait till I gather more points. So if I want medicine, 30, 40, so I need 70. So we're about 20, 28? Am I doing that right? Yeah, 28 away. I don't know, that's a lot. And sorry, I just want to have a look at the achievement. Economic Aid. Okay. Let's continue. Dear London. Globe Road, London. Though a short time has elapsed since your return, it nonetheless seems like a strange, distant dream. Your house is definitely silent, with only the occasional muffled sound from the world outside penetrating the wall. But in your ears there are echoes of gunfire and shrill screaming, the screams of injured soldiers and pestilent dying men. Since you returned, you have felt an unshakable fatigue, a small conflict, a strange epidemic, and a long voyage. Over the past month, your body is justified in demanding convalescence. However, rest alone will not help extirpate the memory of Zanzibar from your consciousness and unconscious mind. Confronting this disease seems your only option to keep your mind busy. Conduct research by reading medical archives, read Eric's journal, think back to the money where you're given to Germans, rest. Ooh, I could research right away. Sweet PTSD. Okay. If we can do the medicine right away, I would feel... Spend points on medicine. If this is the medicine aspect of the... Read Eric's journal, medicine. Okay, let's try for the medicine. Let's up my medicine points, so that we'll be back down to 12. Just to better the chance, but who knows? Right? Because I tried to up agility that one time and I still failed, so... But this just betters our chances. Okay, medicine. Success! You go through the bookshelves in your study and glance at the titles of the books. You decide to follow a hunch. You take from the shelves all the publications which mention or describe the means of transmission of diseases. Also, highlight regulator. You skip from one book to another. This disease is unconventional, not only in its behavior, but also in the way it seems to spread. As you are going through your notes and comparing them to various known, yet unusual diseases, you realize that it appears to have selective patterns of transmission. Too selective. The only conclusion you are able to draw from this is that the disease spreads as if via someone's deliberate intervention. Someone who chose where and to whom it would spread. This thought troubles your mind greatly until at last you are overcome by tiredness and you fall asleep. Slowly, trying not to spill the tea which you have already put on the tray, you finish preparing your breakfast. Lifting it carefully, you walk to the stairs and start to ascend. You get to the landing and stop suddenly in your tracks, and you realize that you have made breakfast for two. Raising your gaze to your bedroom door, you recognize the scene of your reoccurring nightmare. You feel like you know exactly what will happen once you enter the room. You feel queasy and not wishing to even face such mental anguish, you turn and start to head down the stairs. The moment you take the first step, you notice something under your feet. Something dark. Looking down, you cannot help but let the tray fall and its contents shatter. There is a river of blood running down the steps. You turn back to your bedroom door to see that the blood is coming from there, streaming under it. Then you hear a rough and distorted voice trying to say something. It is your name. With a scream, you are suddenly awake. You are sitting, your breathing is heavy, and your heart is racing. Your blankets are bunched up and damp with sweat. Once again, you have dreamt of Helen suffering from the disease which you encountered in Africa. The sense of guilt in your subconscious is playing cruel tricks on you. You think back to the interminable hours you spent at the university library, eyes strained and bloodshot by the dim paraffin light of the reading rooms. Never a hint. The nature of the disease that killed your wife continued to be a mystery long after her death. When Helen died, you had wanted to die too. You even planned it out and decided on the scientifically best method, poison. But, once again, it was the thoughts of Helen that stopped you. You knew that it was not what she would have wanted. She would have wanted you to fight back and do everything possible to stop other people dying or having to go through the pain of losing their loved ones. It is the remembrance of this thought that now, once again, gives you strength and resolve. With a lingering sense of terror from your nightmare, you get up, wash, and get dressed. You need to walk and to breathe fresh air. Already another chapter? Man, these chapters are just shorter in this section. An old friend. Traversing Mile End, you reach the gleaming white facade of Queen Mary University of London. The time you spent here was intense, and you have mixed emotions seeing it again now. It was home to many pleasurable moments, but also to the anguished final months you spent obsessively researching before your departure to Zanzibar. You skip up the steps at the entrance and go inside. The experience seems both old and new at the same time. You walk along the corridors full of voices and students. One of them appears to be in great hurry and knocks into you painfully as he is hurtling down the hall. Suddenly got 6 experience points. Sheets of paper and notebooks fly in all directions to the amusement of the various student onlookers who have stopped to observe the scene. Hey, Fleming, don't your books teach you how to look where you're going? Help. Of course I wouldn't help him. Fleming hastens to pick up his things. Please, there's no need. Thank you, please. As you return his papers, certain diagrams and formulae catch your eye. They represent rather complex notes of microbiological nature. You let him go to spare any further embarrassment. Curiosity, please. It's outside you should be running, boy. Enjoying yourself instead of dashing around here with these notes, which appear to be rather complicated. What is your name? Alexander, sir. Alexander takes back his notes and starts putting them in order. There is an awkward moment as it becomes clear to you that he must go, but is trying to figure out how to do it without being rude. There is no time to enjoy myself, sir. I have a whole course to catch up. I must go. Please excuse me and thank you, with your permission. He lowers his head and sets off again. In his hurry, he almost knocks into another student, who growls at him menacingly. You watch him moving off, curing distractingly along the corridor like a clumsy blue bottle. What's a blue bottle? Anyway, oh my god, how many points do I have now? We're already back to 34. Yeeks. Okay. I mean, speechcraft. That's what I would want to be my next thing, but well, I'll be Jake, you old rascal. You suddenly hear your name and immediately recognize the deep and cheerful tone of the voice saying it. You turn to see Reginald Chambers, sprightly face welcoming you with a wide, playful grin. Did I just get another... What? Okay. Reginald is the professor of pharmacology, and the closest thing you've ever had to a friend in your years at this institution. Skip the small talk. Okay, let's just chat. Be polite. Reginald, oh boy. What's happened to you? Is the university wearing you out? You're looking thin. Reginald claps his belly and grins. At nearly 20 stones, his ample bulk rarely goes unnoticed. You know how it is, Jake. These students suck you dry, and since the retirement of Betty from the university canteen, I'd say your old friend Reginald has lost a couple of pounds. Reginald releases a deep, loud I don't know how to pronounce this. Cachinnation, which fills the air all around. Sorry, I really actually want to look up. I've never seen that word before. How to pronounce it, at least from the US American Standard US accent. I said that all wrong. Here we go. Found it. Finally. Or, it's not gonna give a way to pronounce it. Rude. Okay, fine. Don't tell me how. Tell me about you, though. What news of distant Zanzibar? Reginald, I'm not here on a social call, and I could really use your help. In Zanzibar, I came across a very nasty disease. Something new and completely unknown. I'm heading to the library to find out more. Reginald looks at you seriously for once. He remembers well the time you spent in the library obsessed with Helen's illness. The Queen Mary Library overwhelms you with its particular odor, a mixture of old paper, paraffin from the lamps, and a slight must of mold. You start refamiliarizing yourself and walk around until you come to the microbiology section, where a dark-skinned servant is busy arranging books. You find some potentially relevant volumes, but you're unsatisfied. Then your gaze falls on the stack of books that a man is arranging nearby. They seem ideal for your research. The man notices you looking at the pile and gives you a nod of permission. You add them to the books you are already carrying and hasten to the central table where Reginald is waiting. Chiak, old boy, what do you intend to do with all these tombs? No, wait. I don't want to know, whatever your intentions are. I have no wish to deal with them on an empty stomach. Let's go to the pub and get something in our bellies. Unlike the library, the entrance to your old pub has a salubrious effect on you. It hasn't changed in the slightest since your last visit, and the tartan furniture is comfortably worn through in all the same places. You follow Reginald to your usual table, where you used to spend long hours discussing and hypothesizing various scientific theories. A barmaid comes over to take your order. Oh, Shirley, look who I've brought along. Shirley puts a hand on her hips and throws you a warm smile. Okay, so I guess when I meet a new character, I get experience points. The old partners are back together then. I need not ask what old Reggie wants, but what shall I bring you, Jake? Okay, hold on. So, I'm at 46. Should I drink? I don't know. If I'm trying to research, I shouldn't drink, right? Is it rude not to drink? Let's not drink. I don't know. He didn't have anything of alcohol. I don't remember saying there any sort of text about him having alcohol abuse or anything like that, right? Let's just go for no. As soon as Shirley goes off, you are piling onto the table some of the volumes that you took from the library. As you are doing so, you realize that one of them is not even a medical book at all. It seems very curious to you because you were quite sure that you had read all the titles before taking them. It seems to be text on ancient Egyptian myths. Flicking through it with some curiosity, you come to a page which has been bookmarked with a thin red ribbon, and there, staring out at you, is a symbol. An eye. There could be no question. It is almost identical to the symbol encountered on your adventure. Is this merely an odd coincidence, or is there some sort of hidden connection? A flurry of interrogative occupies your thought. Realizing that Reginald is observing you with a puzzled expression, you put the book back with the others and start telling him about the things which you saw in Zanzibar. You begin to get caught up in the fever of your tale, while your jovial friend keeps smiling all the while. His eyes begin to show a growing concern. Shirley reappears at the table, clearing her throat to make her presence known. You're so caught up with your tale that she has to do it again before you look up. She smiles at you and clears some of the books away so that she can place a large plate of food in front of Reginald. Your friend looks hungrily at his juicy steak and cheese-covered chips, and you smile as he goes for his cutlery and starts eating. You, however, go back to reading a paragraph about skin sores. Oh, delicious. Let me see if I got this right. This disease causes fever, weeping sores, and ocular hemorrhages. The poor victims bleed from all these sores and they weep blood. I can only imagine the smell of their bodies in malefaction. Nodding, you notice a couple just behind Reginald. The woman pushes away her plate and the man stops mid-air with a fork full of food. Reginald's loud description has clearly and understandably ruined their appetite. The same cannot be said for Reginald himself, who is polishing off the last few mouthfuls of his meal and washing it down with an enormous gulp from his mug of ale. I read about something similar to just the other day. Some research by a microbiologist called Martinus Bizurinic, describing a disease he's looking at. Where'd you read it? Tell me more. Okay. Check. What's the difference? Where'd you read it? So that gets us checking his information. Tell me more about it. I never heard of him. Is he reliable? Okay. Let's go with tell me more about it. Although he doesn't work on humans, Martinus has done a series of studies that are apparently close to understanding the true nature of certain diseases. They are said to be discoveries that will change medicine completely. Okay, so maybe okay, so this is just getting the information then. It was in the scientific appendix of the Standard, one of last week's editions. As much as a Dutchman can be, I suppose. If you're asking me if I think he's just after fame, I'd have to say no. He's a botanist and microbiologist of some renown, and his studies have been garnering a great deal of interest in the scientific community of late. Would you still have a copy of that? Well, I may still have a copy in my office, otherwise we can easily find another in the university library. You hurriedly collect up all your books from the table, pay the bill, leaving a generous tip for Shirley, and set off along the road, all the while admonishing Reginald to quicken his pace. After rereading the article several times, you conclude that Bergeracs, I don't know how to say this, Bergeracs, Bergeracs, I don't know, theories may very well explain various aspects of disease in general, and this one specifically. This article, however, seems to deliberately omit important information. You inform Reginald of this, who is observing you attentively. At this point, I think we should try and speak to Bergerac himself. Let's go together. I'm assuming I don't want to disappoint you, but it's not as easy as you might think. Martinus Bergerac lives in Delft in London. Okay. 58. God, we're okay. This entire section is about racking up points. To use for later. Let's ask for advice. Reginald looks at you and reflects. He's somewhat surprised by your sense of urgency. After a moment, he shrugs. Then we're going to Holland, of course. You're already heading towards the door, mentally going through what you need to do to set off immediately. But then you realize your friend has stopped behind you. You turn to see Reginald stroking his chin and looking at you thoughtfully. The journey will be long and expensive. Are you sure about this? Maybe we should go to the bank before leaving. There's no need. I have everything we need. Meet me at the port. Okay. We're going with the friend. Are we going to get this guy accidentally killed? Probably. You're walking with Reginald near the Thames. The Times? Watching his face wincing comically at its terrible smell. The area around the docks is utter chaos, and it's not easy to avoid conclusions in the jostling mayhem. Reginald is holding his bag to his chest and is constantly on the lookout for gangs of dirty, ragged street urchins. You cannot help but compare it to the port of Zanzibar, but quickly decide that here in London it is far less civilized and more chaotic. Finally, you have freed yourself from the crowd and made it to the shipping office. You tell Reginald to wait for you with the luggage while you go and buy the tickets. Good morning. How can I help you? Good morning. I'd like 2 tickets for a passenger ship to the Netherlands, please. Okay, a comfortable journey. That's what we have the money for. You need not concern yourself over the price. The amount you were given by the Germans was more than enough. You and Reginald walk carefully up the narrow creaking gangway onto the ship's deck. Turning back to look at the docks I'm reading this all wrong. You and Reginald walk carefully up the narrow, creaking gangway onto the ship's deck. Turning back to look at the docks, you have the strange feeling of seeing London as already in the distance, as if those couple of yards were already hundreds of miles. There are a series of sailors' shouts all around, and the ship sets sail for Rotterdam. A very helpful sailor accompanies you below deck to show you your berths. The Mary Rose II is a nice little ship that will allow for an agreeable and comfortable voyage. The sailor leaves you and Reginald in your new cabin. You know, yeah, let's get to know Reginald more before he dies. If you really need to know, I have 2 very good reasons to be here. Your friend smiles warmly and grabs your stomach. This here wants to try some new food. Grabs his stomach. This here wants to try some new food. I haven't had a proper adventure since I was a student at the university, and I don't know how much longer I'll be able to have them. Reginald laughs heartily. You look at him, waiting to hear his second reason. Secondly, Jake, you don't seem to be in any sort of condition to deal with all this alone. I'm afraid you just end up doing something daft. Okay. It seems to me, from the symptoms that you have described, to be a strain of plague, but with many, perhaps too many, incongruous details. It may well turn out to be a new type of bacterium, or perhaps something else. New theories are always emerging in our area of study. You nod your agreement. That is why it's so important to speak with Bishrink. Okay. I must tell you that I accepted some money from a group of Germans that I think I may have made a mistake. If it's a lot of money, I can't see what your mistake could have been. You cannot help but laugh at your friend's reaction, although you have already recounted what transpired in Zanzibar. You now tell him all about Meyer and the strangeness of the circumstances in which he sought you out, first in Africa, and then immediately on your return to England. Well, I don't think you have any sort of legal obligation to him because of the money, and besides, you are fulfilling your side of the bargain by continuing your research. If it turns out to be as new and dangerous as you think, you can always make it public, and there won't be much left for Meyer anyway. Reginald's reasoning is actually fairly sound, but nevertheless, you cannot share his optimism entirely. You doubt that this agreement will come to such an easy resolution. Perhaps we should rest. Before getting some rest, let's eat some of this food brought by that uniformed girl just now. Please don't be poisoned. Reginald uncovers a big silver platter and releases a cloud of wonderful smelling steam. For once, you decide to join your gourmandizing companion in his repast before settling down into your comfortable bunk. Good, it's not poison because we ate it too, right? Once more, and for the whole trip, you sleep refuses to treat you kindly. You can't stop thinking of Zanzibar, of Meyer, and of the disease. Every train of thought breeds new mysteries. You only hope that Bijnik can give you answers to these questions which are driving you mad. Opening your eyes, the first thing you see is Reginald. He's reading a book and chewing something. He smiles when he sees that you are awake. He's about to speak to you when there is a loud ringing. The ship is entering Rotterdam port. And this is... Okay. Let's look at our notes here. Comfortable journey. Sorry. Character sheet, 70 points now. So, I mean, at the very least with this, I could increase agility, I could increase speechcraft. If we get more points, at some point, I guess I should at the very least increase fighting to just more than just one, but, you know, whatever. The coach driver shouts something to you in a hard German accent, and you look out of the carriage window. You are finally leaving Rotterdam behind, and after a while you make out the first signs of the outskirts of Delft. With the money given to you by the Germans, you have no trouble finding great lodgings near the university. It is a fine building, and Reginald is already at the window scoping the best spots to eat. There are indeed various places on both sides of the canal. Since you are feeling excited, as if at the start of some pleasurable holiday, you decide to relax and enjoy the moment, rather than dwell on the reality of being caught up in a complex web of intrigue and mysteries. You unpack and organize the few things you brought with you, and while Reginald takes care of the formalities related to your accommodation, you decide to go straight to the university to try and see Bejerink. As you leave, you close the door behind you. It does not seem very solid. Well, that's a hint hint, nudge nudge. Having studied a map of Delft, you know that it's pretty straightforward to get to the university from where you are staying. You walk a few streets and soon find yourself at the steps which lead up to a cottage. Okay, so we can either... Interesting. Sorry, let's just get rid of this. So we can either... Would the administrator give that information to us? You could ask the university administrator for the whereabouts of Bejernik, or ask a university to announce your arrival to Bejernik. Let's try this. He shows you to the office of Dr. Martinus Bejerink. I really wish I knew how to pronounce this name. You're in such a state of agitation that you feel almost as if you were a teenager about to go on the first date. You knock and enter the office. Professor Bejerink recognizes you and immediately welcomes you warmly. But he recognizes us? As soon as I heard your English accent, I knew who you were. The professor offers to give you a tour of the college. Okay, I'm assuming we've already talked to him beforehand. The professor offers to give you a tour of the college, and you take the opportunity to see the laboratory where you will be working together and exchanging ideas over the following days. Bejerink is friendly, but he's clearly avoiding talking about the reason why you are here. Professor Bejerink's quiescence continues to exasperate you over the days that follow. Every morning, you make your way to the laboratory, where you spend a few hours with him, or alone when he has lectures. You study various diseases and discuss theories together, without ever explicitly discussing that disease. Every time you bring it up, Bejerink immediately changes the subject. But since it is clear that much of the research that you are doing has many things in common with the African disease, you decide not to force the issue for now. Your time in Delft is fast beginning to follow a routine. Reginald often comes with you to the laboratory, but most of the time he wanders around the city, enjoying its culinary traditions, about which he gives you enthusiastic nightly reports. Sometimes you go out with him to eat, but you often have a strange and unpleasant feeling that you are being watched. You're trying a traditional stamp pot, which Reginald has been ranting about for days. Bejerink is busy at the university, and Reginald is away for a few days visiting. The Hague, which is not far away. Once again, you are feeling observed. When you look behind you, there is nothing, or perhaps only a shadow. Then you notice someone sitting a few tables away, dressed very stylishly. He is brazenly staring straight at you, Meyer. Just go over. You move over to where Meyer is sitting. Dr. Huntington, what a pleasure. Will you join me for supper? Once seated, a few moments pass in silence. He is measured and calm. He seems to be toying with you. Dr. Huntington, we are satisfied with your decision to collaborate with Bezerink and the steady progress being made. Certain details, however, interest us in particular. He's looking you straight in the eye. His smiling coolness betrays disquieting undertones, and every word seems to contain a veiled threat. We have eyes and ears everywhere, Dr. Huntington, but it is not enough. We require a return on our investment. No final results as yet, rather an update on the current state of your research. You feel repugnance at his menacing tone. However, having accepted their money, you can hardly back out now. A pathogenic agent smaller than a bacterium. The idea is disturbing, but the research that you and Bezerink have been conducting on sick tobacco leaves continues to confirm this seemingly absurd hypothesis. Bezerink has already chosen a name for it: virus. It seems almost more like a machine in the way it reproduces, attacking cells and using them to multiply than a biological organism. Many of the anomalous aspects that have troubled you since Zanzibar are beginning to make some sort of sense. Your research has come to a critical phase, and Bezerink is invigorated and beginning to show some emotion for the first time. I think the time has finally come for our discoveries to be made public, Dr. Huntington. The world of medicine will never be the same. Bezerink has started the process of publication, but it will take time before it is verified and peer-reviewed. You decide to use this time for a short break. You have recently been taking long, reflective walks around Delft, trying to tally the results of your research with the pathology of the East African disease. Chief among your current concerns is resolving the question of the means of transmission and spread of this so-called virus. Despite spending time at the epicenter of this disease, you have had no symptoms, or at least not of the type that you observed there. Could this mean that this mysterious virus has a different effect on different people? Perhaps a single virus can even give rise to different diseases. As you are wandering near the cathedral thinking about all these strands of puzzles, you come across a small boy selling newspapers. Something catches your eye on the front page, and so you buy a copy. You have only learnt a few words and expressions in Dutch, so you can't really understand the article properly, but you do understand that it is an article about your and Bezerink's research. Skimming the article, you see it mention the university, the professor, and some of his colleagues. There is no trace of your name, however. It is certainly puzzling. Why would Bezerink have kept your name out of the reports? What motivation could he have had? It's very strange because you never had taken him for an opportunist. Then there's the question of Zanzibar. Since the moment you first arrived, the professor has continuously avoided the subject. Despite using ideas and evidence gleaned from your experience, you haven't once discussed it openly. The colors of Delft soften as the shadows lengthen and evening falls. As you walk back to your lodgings, you reflect on what your next move will be. Entering the apartment, you immediately smell Reginald's cooking. You fall into an armchair and tell your friend that you aren't hungry. Your appetite has been ruined by this discovery. You are mulling over plausible explanations when there's a knock at the door. Who is it? I'm looking for Dr. Huntington. You recognize the voice. It's Myers. Reginald turns to look at you questioningly, but you're already on your feet and moving closer to the door. Okay. I'm curious. I'm trying to figure, like, what's the secret? 100 experience points, jeez. Okay. Let's question through the door. What do you want from me now? If I can have a few minutes, I merely want to relay a message. and again you refuse his request. Reginald takes a knife from the kitchen table and comes closer to the door, but Meyer has gone silent. Then a small slip of paper is pushed under the door. I did not wish to disturb you. I've left my message here. Good evening to you. Get the ticket. It's a ticket. We have... Oh, sorry. Okay, I guess the message. We have spoken with Bezrink, and he understood that it was necessary to leave your name out of the press reports. We hope you will, too. Please leave the city and avoid any further contact with the professor. You have conducted more satisfactorily the work for which you were financed. Meyer leaves, giving you no chance to reply. It seems your German backers gave Bezrink no choice but to leave you out of the publication of your results. Reginald agrees with you. You're left frustrated and angry. Ignore them, old boy. Yes, you will. You will ignore their warning and speak to Bezrink first thing tomorrow morning. Are we gonna get this man killed? Hey. Okay. I guess we'll do this as the last chapter. Because my voice is starting to tire out. And then we'll talk further beyond that. Parasite agents. Opening your eyes, you are immediately filled with determination. You're going to confront Dr. Bezrink and find out exactly why he was compelled to do what he did. You have breakfast quickly and consider what you will need to take to assert your position. Okay. So I'm gonna have my research on me. One word, if I leave my research, someone can take it from... They made a very specific thing about the door being not that strong, right? So someone could just break in and take the research. Okay, so I'm going to take the research. I mean, the other thing is that someone could steal my research right off of me. So either way, maybe the research is going to get stolen anyway. Who knows? You pick up your briefcase. You are comforted by the weight of the paper inside. It contains the only real tangible proof of all the work you have done together and of your relationship with the professor. Clasping it tightly, you leave the flat. As you're walking to Bezrink's house, you go over and over in your mind the words you will use to explain your position. Although the general idea remains same, you make some mental edits until you come up with the best possible phrasing of what you want to say. Reaching his house, you pass by 3 young men laughing and joking around on the street outside. They look like 3 friends returning from a night of revelry. Remembering times like those, you smile and feel a little envious. You strain your coats in front of the door and knock. A butler calls for Bezrink, but when he comes to the door, his face carries an expression of bewilderment. Good morning. Who are you? Who are you? He's evidently making fun of you. Okay, this question. Ask for question and ask for an explanation. Do you mean to say you don't know me? Bezrink appears in earnest, even somewhat irate. I'm sorry, sir, but I am quite sure that I've never met you in my life. There must be some misunderstanding. Now, if you please, I'm a very busy man. The butler and another servant approach, and the doctor pushes you lightly towards the door, as if shooing away some kind of annoying insect. You turn your body and try to wedge yourself there before the door can close. You must try to speak with Bezrink. It cannot end like this. Okay. One speechcraft. The one spent it all. Zanzibar. I contacted you months ago to tell you about a terrible epidemic spreading in Zanzibar. Bezrink looks at you. You recount the whole story of your meeting and collaboration together with words chosen carefully, but oh so hastily. It is impossible that he remembers nothing of this, and so you demand an explanation. Sir, I do not understand your intentions, but there must be some kind of terrible misunderstanding. It appears that Bezrink is considering your words, weighing up the possibilities, but then he comes to some sort of decision and shakes his head and asks you to leave and close the door behind you. You stare at the closed door. You realize that it would be pointless to insist and knock again. If Bezrink has answers, you certainly won't get them through force. yet he is clearly hiding something. You recognize in him a fellow seeker of truth, so you know he isn't just in it for the money or the fame. Maybe Vizhrink is being controlled by someone, or perhaps you really are losing your mind. You clutch the briefcase to your chest firmly. No, here is the tangible, unequivocal evidence that you are not going crazy, perhaps the only proof that you have left, in fact. You have been walking lost in thoughts for some time when you suddenly catch a movement out of the corner of your eye. Turning, you see the 3 men you had seen outside Vizhrink's house. Is it possible that they are following you? You stop at the newspaper stand, pretending to be interested in the papers to gauge their reaction. They also stop nearby, and once you start walking again, they do too. This is no coincidence. Over the months you have spent working with Vizhrink, you have had ample opportunity to get to know your way around Delft. Now you decide to use this knowledge to your advantage. You will try to lose them, or else lead them into a situation where you can confront them more easily. Oh, okay. Interesting. So we're using the map this time. Face your pursuers, you know very well how to defend yourself. I do not know how to defend myself. 1 against 3, you wouldn't stand a chance. You better run away as long as you can. It doesn't say I need to use the agility points, right? I'm gonna, just in case I don't trust it, I'm gonna use my agility. At least get to 3. We have the points. I want to raise it up anyway. I definitely can't fight, so... You're alone and there are 3 of them, so you decide that confrontation is not your best option. Just ahead there is a narrow alley. You take it, pick up your pace to run, and then turn at the first road that crosses it. You continue taking random turns and accelerating, hoping to lose them, but to no avail. You hear the footsteps behind you. Now they have started running. It has become a real chase. Okay. You change strategy and start running away from the city center. You continue with your strategy of trying to lose them in the city center. Wouldn't there be like more people in the city center? I mean, that's my thinking. Why go to the suburbs where there might be less people? You continue with the same strategy of trying to lose them in the narrow labyrinthine streets of the city center. Yet every time you turn around to see where they are, they seem closer. Your breathing is becoming labored. Perhaps this wasn't the best strategy after all. If you don't do something soon, they will catch up. Okay, hold on. I do like observation. You study the layout of the local area to find out some sort of advantage. Without slowing down, you scan the area, looking for anything which could help you in your escape. In the middle distance, there is a cafe, and beside the rear entrance, there is a tall stacks of crates. As you pass, you tug on one of the crates near the bottom of the stack, making them collapse in all direction and block the alleyway. You know it won't stop them, but it should slow them down a little. Now that you have succeeded in gaining a little ground on the men chasing you, it's time to think of a strategy for getting away from them definitively. Please? I don't know, man. Should I try agility? I don't know. I mean, part of the reason my hesitance to do this is every single time I try agility and anything else, it's like it never ends up It always seems to fail, or I feel like it always fails, or fails majority of the time. Definitely fighting, because I have nothing there. I don't know. I feel like we shouldn't go to the police, but I'm not sure what the cathedral is going to do. Damn it, see? You put all of your efforts into a final desperate sprint, but after less than a minute, you are forced to slow down by a painful stitch in your side. Your sedentary life in Delft has taken its toll on your fitness. Behind you, you can hear that your pursuers have gained ground. The three men surround you. Professor Huntington, it is time to understand that your collaboration with Dr. Bejerink is over. Please stop trying to see him and exposing yourself. Your work is too valuable. You should be more discreet. He has a thick German accent. Persuade. Please. Ha ha ha. Well, if that's the case, maybe you shouldn't be making me disappear. While the man who had been talking to you holds you tightly, one of the others rips your briefcase from your hands. You shout and struggle and protest, but the man who is holding you is very strong, and the other brings out a knife and flashes it in front of your eyes. There is nothing you can do to stop them, and as they are walking off, one of them turns back to you. Understood, Huntington? You're an intelligent man, Huntington. Don't do anything stupid. We keep an eye on you. Dejected, you make your way back to the flat. You have lost the only real proof of your collaboration with Bejerink, but you are certainly not about to give up now. In fact, their theft of the evidence has made you even more determined to find some way of demonstrating your involvement. There's only one way to convince Bejerink to involve him in the scandal. You try to convince the scientific community of your reason. Interesting. Ugh. See, I was thinking I should have just gone into the church. Because ability just never works out for me. I don't know why I keep trying. Okay, so the question is, what the hell do I do here? There's only one way to convince Bejerink to talk. Involve him in the scandal. Local newspapers are always looking for stories like this. You try to convince the scientific community of your reasons. You're confident that they will listen to a colleague you need. See, I feel like this is not going to work, but I feel bad for this. But sure, we'll try the scandal route. We're not going to make great friends, but... Because I don't know. Yeah, this is just going like, he's crazy. You have made inquiries, and now you have an appointment at the Grote Market, the market square, with a group of journalists. You decide that the best solution is to put the whole situation into the public domain, even at the risk of creating a scandal. There are only 5 journalists present. Oh, are we going to get all 5 of them killed now? There are only 5 journalists present, and they give you looks which betray their differing approaches. 2 of them seem curious, the others very skeptical. You recount the facts of the case, and you can see that for many of them, the story, albeit true, seems unappealing. Do you have any evidence? I'm not going up against those professors without something solid. They'd have us for breakfast. You stiffen up as you think back to the loss of the briefcase. But when you're about to answer, the reporter who asked you for the evidence pushes back his chair and stands up. Okay, I think we have our answer. Even if your story were true, I don't think we have much more to say. If you want some advice about professors, though, I have heard there's some excellent mental health doctors in Paris. The other journalists laugh at their witty colleague. You don't even protest as you see them walking away. You know that it has only been a colossal waste of time. Something, however, keeps your eyes on them as they walk off, particularly something in the behavior of the journalist who so rudely challenged you. There's something odd about his attitude. At one point, he turns to look at you and smiles, making a gesture with his hand to indicate that you're crazy. His mouth is laughing, but his eyes are not. Rather, they are watching you carefully. You're suddenly aware that there is something military-like about his bearing. He definitely doesn't carry himself like a journalist. As an ex-soldier yourself, you recognize when someone is pretending to be a civilian. It seems he cannot make any progress whatsoever, neither here nor from public opinion in general. It will be a while yet before the consequences of what you and Bejerink discovered become known to the public. and you obviously can't wait around for something like that to happen. You're disappointed and angry. You have been mocked and ridiculed. How can you possibly put up with such a situation? With this thought in your mind, you leave the market square. Okay, back to 32. Okay, you're making us... Oh, we do either or? Really? Okay. After weighing it up, you determine that the best thing to do now is to appeal directly to Delft's scientific and medical community. Thus, you return to the university and meet with the rector, Van Vermeer, who in turn arranges a meeting with the medical board for that same afternoon. You're feeling nervous and on edge about presenting your case in front of these staid and suspicious professors. It takes you back to your students' days, and although you do have the strength of your convictions, the accusing attitude of these men makes you feel strangely guilty. You begin recounting your side of the story regarding Bezerink's research, explaining your discoveries in Zanzibar and their role in the subsequent results of the collaboration. You close with an account of the bizarre encounter with Bezerink after the publication of your work. Dr. Huntington, these allegations of yours are most serious. Dr. Bezerink, who is not with us here today, denies not only your involvement, but even that he knows you. Why exactly would a microbiologist be working with a doctor on this kind of research? Do you have any evidence to support your version of events? I had copies of the notes, but they were stolen. Of course, how convenient. Perhaps this theft is all part of a plot against you, sir. Gentlemen, we have before us a braggart or a fool. Murmurs and barely stifled laughs rise up from the assembled academics. You make a feeble protest, but it is clear that they are no longer listening. You abandon this futile attempt and walk off angrily, trying to ignore the derisory comments behind you. But it is not over yet. You have just resolved to break into the laboratory. You arrive at the laboratory. Nobody is currently using it, and so the door is locked. You try without success to force it open. On closer inspection, it seems that the door has been reinforced following a recent break-in. But you will not be deterred so easily. Try to force yourself through a connecting window, remove a heavy bust, steal the key from reception? Hopefully. My agility is high enough. After all the time you spent working with Bezerink, you know exactly where the extra copies of the keys are. You find a small place where you can observe the small office behind the reception to watch the comings and goings of the administrators, so you pick the right moment to nip in and take the keys. You find a good spot to inconspicuously observe the movement of the people in the reception area. Eventually, there is only a junior administrator, and then he too is called somewhere else. When you're quite sure he is gone, you prepare to make a dash behind the main desk. A professor passes through the corridor. As soon as he too walks off, you quickly sneak behind the desk to the rack, find and take the key. No one has seen you. I like how I godlied him and lost it as I used it. Getting to the laboratory door, you check that no one is watching, slip the key in the lock and enter. Looking around, something gives you a strange sensation. You know that the laboratory has been closed since you and Bezerink finished your research and began writing up your results, yet all around you there is unmistakable signs that the laboratory is still in use. On closer investigation, you notice that the test tubes contain more or less the same samples and chemicals that you have been using. Someone is carrying on with your research. You know that it can't be Bezerink, busy as he has been with the publication, nor any of the laboratory technicians, who have long been reassigned to other senior researchers. You cannot comprehend who could be using your research, nor why. You can feel your ire rising once again. You have been cheated out of the months of arduous work, and your results have been appropriated. You must put a stop to them. How many points? I have exactly 40 points. You quickly look around for flammable materials, grabbing bottles and reading their labels. You find alcohol and various other combustible liquids. You spill them around the laboratory and light a match. A strange green and blue flames began to rise up around the microscopes and other instrumentation. You abandon the university trying to go unnoticed. You do not even turn back once. What you have just done has forever ruined your collaboration with the University of Delft, and you must think of an alternative strategy. Yeah, I would say so. Alright, Alone Against the World. Okay, we finally reached the end of the previous chapter. So with that, I will be back on the Tuesday, October 25th for me. And of course, for me, it's going to be, since I do have work and all, it's going to be in the evening time, which I guess some people might not make it. So either way, I'm going to end set here. Thank you for liking if you liked. Thank you for commenting if you commented. Thank you for subscribing if you subscribed. Thank you for favoriting if you favorited. Thank you for simply clicking on this video. Until next time, guys, see ya!